Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships and a Patreon replay, which is going to be something of a challenge for me because, well, it's a little bit buggy. Just a little bit. This is PointyHairedJedi in the Tashkent, which I think still popularly bears the name of Trash Can, although it's pretty decent these days, I think. I'm honestly not that up on my Soviet destroyers, even though I have played some of them. But overall the line is still somehow a bit of a mystery to me. It's more gun-focused than a lot of destroyer lines, but it does also get a heal and somewhat decent torpedoes in that it actually has a usable torpedo range. So by now you've already spotted what's wrong with the UI. Essentially, in terms of the minimap, positions are only updating when enemy ships are unspotted and then respotted, and as you can see the on-screen markers are getting stuck in place, so at least I can vaguely see which ships are which. In terms of allied markers though, they are totally stuck in the starting positions, and so yeah, identifying some of these ships is going to be a bit tricky. And also the gun reload, torpedo reload markers are just non-functional, and the consumable markers are downright odd. There's no way this is lasting for 4.5 minutes and it's also not counting down. So yeah, it's going to make identifying allied ships, I don't have markers to rely on, purely having to go by being able to tell which ships are which. That is a cat on my desk, by the way. It's actually behind the mic right now. I don't know if that's audible, but hello Sam, have you come to help? Yes, he's very helpful. So yeah, this is almost all going to be gunboat action, and it's all almost going to be around this sea cap. Unfortunately, and one of the big unfortunatelies of this particular bug is we can only really tell what's going on over here. We can get some vague idea of what's happening in the other caps in terms of when enemies are spotted and unspotted. But aside from that, it's really hard to tell what's going on with the allied teammates who are not in the immediate vicinity. So torps out on that ZF6. No idea what PointyHairedJedi's health is at the moment. That is completely stuck and it's not going to change, so I've no idea what health he's going to end this on. This ship does have a heal, at least, so it can take some damage. But yeah, it's Sam, you're being very distracting right now. Yes, I know, you have a very fuzzy belly. Should I? Oh, no, okay, don't stroke the fuzzy belly. It was a trap! It was a trap. Who knew? Sometimes he will let me. Other times, the claws of death come out. This was one of those times when the claws of death come out. Or came out even. So, 2 torpedo hits, finished off the ZF6. Those are going to be the only torpedo hits in this entire match, and the rest of it's just pew-pew action, basically. And you'll note that, yes, those ribbons are getting stuck on screen, but we can at least see the damage total. For the time being, it's going to get kind of blocked later on. So the one thing that's sort of functioning correctly is the shell ribbon counter and the damage total. I have no idea why those are the only things that are working more or less normally, but anyway. It's not even a patch compatibility issue. This was a previous 10.9 replay, played on the 10.9 client just before it was updated, so it's definitely not that. Maybe it could have been mods that PointyHairedJedi was using that I'm not using. It's more likely, however, it's just that this particular replay was buggy and is not behaving correctly. So he's got a fair few targets to fire at here. I mean, there are a fair few ships that are enemy ships that are present, including some of the enemy's radar ships. I have no idea who's capping right now. I presume it's one of the allied destroyers. They do have 3 destroyers per team. I mean, that's another thing that was working correctly, at least, is the team panel notifications, so we can see exactly how many ships are alive on each side. But apart from that, who knows? That Carno could be a bit of a problem if it gets the opportunity to push forwards, but hopefully it won't. And there are also some battleships back there to pew pew at as well, including, I think, the Missouri. I think. I'm not sure. I think the Missouri is back there, which of course is a radar ship, but a bit of a closer range radar ship. But when you're playing like this, if you're not actively trying to sneak around, then it's not that big of an issue. Now I think that Carno is just straight up reversing. So yeah, I haven't actually played that. I don't know how well the armour actually holds up. I know it does have a speed boost going for it, so maybe they're hoping to just back up and get out of range, but of being spotted. But when you're firing and on fire, that's not really such a possibility. There's an Izumo around there somewhere as well, but I think they might be off towards the left side of the cap circle, just behind the island, along with that Riga. They are ahead on points quite nicely at this stage, and they do have that mid-cap, which the enemy team doesn't seem to have been able to really actively contest. They've taken the A-cap though, but I've no idea what the disposition of friendly forces is over there. The enemy team only seem to have lost 1 or 2 ships. Anyway, where was I? I had to break the recording there just for a moment to remove a cat from my desk because he was being a little bit too helpful. Which, you know, I'm sure everyone listening will find very amusing, but it's a little bit annoying to work when there's a cat rolling around and trying to knock things off and threatening to make clattering noises from said things being knocked off. So, yeah, if you hear a disgruntled cat in the background, that's what it is. That would appear to be an enemy Musashi that is... or is that the Izumo? Hang on, that's an Izumo. Okay, I recognise those turrets. There's a Musashi thing stuck on screen, but that is very clearly the Izumo. If you can get a fire going on the Izumo, that's certainly going to be helpful, because of course trying to hit the relatively limited superstructure in terms of the overall deck space it takes up is it's actually one of the benefits of the Izumo, is it has got, although it's tall, it's relatively limited in terms of its horizontal deck size. So yeah, it's kind of like some of the Russian battleships where you have to rely more on getting fires than actually being able to reliably do lots of superstructure damage. He's not taking too much focus himself at the moment, but I think they've lost a battleship over here already, or is it a cruiser? It's hard to tell. I think it's a cruiser they've lost over here, and that battleship that's backing up. I've got no idea what that is. But yeah, they're taking the brunt of the fire at the moment. Although that Izumo's guns are actually pointed over in this direction. So that's actually Piritskenya's kill, and his second kill since the ZF6. There's the Musashi, just kind of poking their nose around, and that's definitely one of the Allied destroyers that's over here as well. I'm not sure which one. Though they're putting out 2 sets of 4 torps, so I would guess Yugamo? Hang on, I will double check this because I do actually have, of course, the score screens. Yes, that's almost certainly going to be a Yugamo, 2x4 sets of torps, so they might actually get some damage in there. Obviously, the radar is a greater threat to them than the gunboat that's whizzing around, firing away in the open without a care in the world. Although, I imagine he's having... you know, some cares in that he's not totally being ignored. There are people that are firing at him, including whatever that is. I think that might be the Riga. So, yeah, he's keeping his distance. He's not trying to get in close, because that's not what you do in these ships. I mean, personally, I kind of prefer the sheer nutty speed of the high tier French, and the range that you can get on them is pretty good as well. But yeah, once their hit points start to run down, they become a bit useless. Whereas this, of course, gets a heal. And then on the other side of things, you've got the Swedish destroyers, but they don't have the nutty speed or the really the same amount of punch with the guns. I mean, they're good in their own way, and I do like the Swedish destroyers. But yeah, the Russian, some of the Russian DDs with If you use the heal, because if I remember correctly, you have to choose between smoke and a heal, I think. And yeah, they're quite potent with those 130mm guns. And it's going to be interesting to see how the replacement for the Khabarovsk winds up being, because the Khabarovsk is rather large. I mean, it's fast, but it's rather large, and it has an absolutely useless torpedo range, which in this day and age is, yeah, not great. It's kind of putting it in a bad spot overall, because even the French destroyers have a somewhat usable torpedo range. You can actually try and build in French destroyers around the torpedoes and being a bit stealthier, and they do actually have a pretty fast reload and not bad speed. In fact, pretty fast speed. It's not quite the same as the Swedes, of course, but they also hit a lot better than the Swedes. I think we're up to over 100,000 certainly. I think we're approaching 130,000. There's not that much less much left even to shoot at this stage. They've taken out pretty much everything, and half their team is left alive. That Musashi that just went down was actually Peretskenia's div mate, so clearly this was quite a deliberate decision to pair up with someone that could take all the punches while you yourself run around and set all the fires. And all the fires have actually earned him a witherer, so that's not been too bad at all. The other battleship that was here was the Pommern, it looks like, that's just been sunk by the Riga, and I believe that to be the Riga right there. The Kano is still also around on this flank. The only other survivor of the enemy team at this point is an Östergötland that was over on the A flank, and clearly they've been able to take control of that side of the map. So even though this team did eventually cap C, it's really not gone that well for them overall, because they are so very badly behind on points that yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine that they were ever seriously in contention for this game. But it's sort of hard to read how this one went, with the replay being bugged how it was. So Peretskenia got the Riga, didn't get a chance to take out that Kano for the Kraken. Unfortunately, they actually got blapped by the allied Izumo from somewhere west, I'm presuming. And with Östergötland just running away, they sail home to a nice victory on points. Although, yeah, I mean, they pretty firmly won that one. It would have been nice for Peretskenia to get the Kraken out that, but it was still a very solid result. 2.2k and 130,000 XP. The Ugamo actually did pretty decent work on this flank as well, from 1900, and as you can see, the Musashi in third place with 1800 and change. So yeah, it's kind of hard to fully know what was going on without being able to see all the information that you usually get from a replay, but hopefully I made this work. Hopefully this is still a somewhat entertaining replay, and hopefully it satisfies Peretskenia, who is one of my Patreon supporters after all. So that is about that for this game. You can check out my Patreon below. It's what pays the majority of my bills. I don't get that much from ad revenue. And, well, it would help if I put out a few more videos, but I'm kind of going at the pace that stresses me, that doesn't cause me more stress, rather. So, yeah, it is what it is at the moment. But even doing less warships, I'm still enjoying doing some warships, but I'm also enjoying doing more other things like Cyberpunk as well. So, yeah, hopefully more people will tune in and watch that series too. I'm definitely rambling at this point though, so anyway, yes, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.